Well, hello, and welcome back. I'm AJ O'Neill, and after a good 12-hour sleep, I think I'm ready to tackle this problem for realsies. Okay, so, uh, the problem was there's kind of two paths. There's a path where we validate and fail. Well, there's three paths. There's a path where we just succeed. Four paths. There's a path where just everything's wrong and we fail. There's a path where the code is correct, the authentication code is correct, but it's expired or something else is wrong with it. And there's the path where the authentication code is correct, but perhaps it's also expired. And I'm trying to get as much of a straight line from point A to point B in each of the scenarios as possible where there's the fewest number of conditions, and I was getting tripped up because I need to handle because there's a semi-failure case. Whoops, let's stop that. There's a semi-failure case, excuse me, where gosh, what are the words? We want to be able to get some data from that was associated, the metadata that was associated with the code, the invite, but we don't want to give back alternate information. We're not using it for authentication. We're just using it to get the metadata that was associated with it, such as the invite ID. Okay, so that's where we're at now. Obviously, as you can tell, I'm not quite fully mentally there.
Give me a chance to wake up, sweetheart.
So, let's pop top, my friends. Have a quick word from our not a sponsor, Mr. Mountain Dew. And open focus. Oh, it's activating already. Okay, anyway. So, I'm going to go down to my check function, and I think I figured out what I need to do. Because I was a little bit confused, and I was thinking, oh, maybe I just need to make another route entirely because I'm trying to get these things to be too close to one another. And that's not the right way to say it, but I'm trying to squish everything into this redeem function. Maybe I shouldn't squish everything into the redeem function. Now, where redeem goes to check. Okay. And then check goes to attempts, and that goes to increment on failure. All right, so this is where we're actually checking the code here. So this is what I need to do. We need to call, and I'm going to rename this to assert fresh, maybe, rather than anything else. So let me go ahead and rename this. I'm not going to call it must fresh because that sounds awkward. I'm going to call it assert is fresh. Okay, so we're going to go and do that everywhere. Okay, I feel better about that now. We're going to go back to where we were, where I was checking to see if the codes actually match. There we go, codes match. And we're going to pass in the success on this. So there's a reason for that, which I'll get to momentarily. Hey, what's up, Eduardo? I don't know if I've seen you around here before. Maybe I have. But what was the thing that just happened that you like so much? I mean, I want you to like things. Don't get me wrong. But I'm always curious when I don't think I did anything astounding and someone likes or subscribes. I think, oh, what was it that just happened that was so great? We're still in the boring parts. And what do you do and where are you from? And what would you like to learn today? Okay, so I'm going to have this assert is fresh. We're going to pass in success. I kind of want this to be a trinary state because it's either going to be success is true or false or not there. And I think that that is actually important. So we do have a return false. We do have a return true. Let's see. Codes match. Boom, 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 boom. All right, so here we are. That's the only place we have the codes match is right here. So this success, we're going to go to assert is fresh where it's defined here, and we're going to say success is equal to null. And we're going to have a param any, and then we're going to have a param, I think it's bool question mark, or maybe it's success question mark. Basically, there's a way to define this that it's true, false, or null. Oh, Boolean. Oops, needs to be Boolean. And this actually, it returns a Boolean or it throws. So I probably should have @throws in here as well, because in this particular case, part of its purpose is to throw, and then it's going to throw, there's different errors that it could throw. So I'm just going to put error in here. Okay, so, but is it like this then? Is it Boolean question mark? Yeah. So this is, it's going to be true, false, or null. There we go. And then we're going to pass this in here as well. We're going to copy this bit. Oh, it doesn't want me to do it like that. It wants me to do it like this, which is fine. We can do it that way. And then we're going to have the same thing. Hold on, can I go back? Yeah. We're going to do the same thing here where we have this param Boolean success. And then we can have success equals null. Now, I don't know. I'm not sure quite what the right way to do this is. So there's a difference here. I don't want to return redeemed if this is not truthy. I think the first one that should come here and so we should do this. If success, we could throw redeemed, but we can't throw redeemed in any other case. And then I'm going to have status equals 403 by default, which is forbidden. And then I'm going to say if success, then status could be 400, which is bad request. So this is how I'm going to distinguish between the two, is I'm going to say you can have an invalid code, and we're going to distinguish between the statuses to say if it was actually valid or not. And I'll have to go change the invalid codes on this. But this is, let's see, this is what we got here. All right. So we're passing in just for the invalid code. Let me go see where else is invalid. I thought I had a missing or something. There was another code. Okay. I'm going to put this as code not found. Yeah. And we'll throw that. Hey, the Neverworld. This is what I'm working on is a magic link mechanism. So magic link is, for example, if you go to, let's just go to medium.com. This is one that many people have seen before. So your only options are to do a secure login or to log in with email. But to make the login with email secure, rather than offering a password, you just put in your email and then they send you a link that has a one-time code in it. And that's that. Oops. Let me move this out of the way. Also, the camera's coming in a little hot because normally I have it tuned for the evening. And we've got a lot more sun right now. So let me bring that down. Bring that intensity down a little bit. There we go. And our spin on this is that we also want to use this one-time code for an invite. And if you're invited to something, hold on there we go. If you're invited to something, let's say you use that link, you go search through, you get an email, you were invited to this thing. In our case, it's going to be mostly documents, or data rooms is what it's called, which is basically a shared folder of documents. So if you wanted to go search, oh, let me go find that invite link so I can get directly to the thing I was invited to, and you go click the invite link again, what you don't want to have happen is for it to pop up with a message, link is expired. Because if you're already logged in, or you could log in, and the link is expired because it's old, you still want that link to end up redirecting you to the resource that you were invited to. And that's the little twist that I'm putting on this that wasn't there before, and that I realized, oh, we really need to have this ability. Yeah. So that's the bit that we're working on now. So I'm going to have a code not found. Then there's two parts of, there's two parts of the code. There's the ID of the code, which is the not so secret part. And then there's the code itself, which is the secret part. And the codes don't last very long. They last about, I think we have them last about 2 hours or something. And then you can only try them so many times. And once you use them, you get a redeemed error. So we're going to have this redeemed will only be thrown. And I think this needs to be set to, we should have success here. I think I'm going to change the function signature of this just as a special guard, so that I don't accidentally use code redeemed in another place and not assert that I've checked whether or not the code is true, because we only want to say that the code can be redeemed if the code was actually valid in the first place. Okay, so first error is going to be we've tried too many times. The next error is going to be that the code was redeemed. And then after that, we've got canceled, deleted. We've got expired down here. It seems that expired should actually come up sooner. No, expired should be last because the code will expire eventually, regardless of whether or not it's been canceled or deleted. Yeah. Okay, so these are, I think these are all the possible states then. And I just need to go through and make sure that there's not anywhere else where I'm passing back error codes. I need to just check from top to bottom. Let me change this up a little bit so I don't have that all the way down at the bottom there. Okay, so I'm just going to look for anything that's prefixed with E, because my error package right here is E. I just call it E, and then I have the different errors that we could have in there. So we've got a developer error. We've got a code not found that doesn't exist yet. We've got another developer error. Let me go back. What was this one? Okay, yep. We've got another developer error. So the developer errors are basically the types of errors that we would expect that could not happen if the form is properly set by the developer. So it's not that the user gave bad input, but the developer wasn't checking the user's input at all, or did something otherwise incorrect. Okay, we've got suspicious request. We've got enhance your COM. We've got developer error. Okay, code retry, which is a type of failure. Then we're back to the code invalid. Okay, so all of the code invalids are here, And other than that, we have code not found and code retry. I have not heard of DigiID. What is DigiID? And I am not using object-oriented programming in the sense of inheritance-oriented programming, but I am using, it's JavaScript, and I am using plain objects. I'm a strong believer in the type of object-oriented programming that you would have in Go, which is true, pure object-oriented programming, as opposed to what most people call object-oriented programming is nothing at all what object-oriented programming is. And most times when people talk about object-oriented programming, what they actually are talking about is inheritance-oriented programming, which is not even a hot mess. It's like a cold mess, or lukewarm, sloppy mess, a damp, lukewarm mess. That's what inheritance-oriented programming is. Okay, code redeemed. All right, and we're going to have success in here, and I'm going to put if not success, and then this would actually be an internal developer error. So I want to be more explicit. If true is not equal to success, because somebody could misuse this and pass in a string. Then I want to say code redeemed must only be thrown. So I'm gonna link you to Creeds of Craftsmanship. Check that out. There's some good software talks there, and I'll actually look at your comments that you're making in just a second. I'm gonna finish this out. So we're gonna throw. Oh, and then this needs an at params. Or at param Boolean success. There we go. When let's see. All right. So code redeemed should only be thrown when the code has been checked. Okay. I'm going to rename this from success to code is valid. There we go. Okay, now let me take a peek down here and see. Authentication with Digibyte crypto wallet. Yeah, so Ryan and I have been talking about this with Dash, and I'm interested, so send a link. Okay, you need to stop using PHP right now. I hope that somebody else has already told you this, but you just need to stop that. That's not going to be good for your career. You're not going to get any respect or cred out of using PHP. It's going to make you look like somebody who has no idea what they're doing. So you keep using PHP if you're a WordPress developer and that's where you make your money or something. But otherwise, do not be learning PHP as a new developer. It really just makes you look incompetent. Python is a good language for learning. It's not really a good language for deploying web apps. It's not really a good language for machine learning either, although it's had this resurgence for that. There's Julia and Rust are better languages for things that are in the AI space. Just a lot of C libraries have been written for machine learning, and people port those, or not port, but they adapt those C libraries to Python and make it easier to use the C libraries. And C is not a good language for machine learning, but a lot of the libraries are written in C. And so with Python, you have it's a wonderful language to learn. It's got a lot of good principles that will help you be a better programmer. In particular, it enforces correct indentation, which is something good. But it's not as good for a lot of the other. It's not good for general application development because it's slow. And its age shows. It doesn't handle multi-threading well. It doesn't handle async well, etc. You like Next.js? I hate React, but that's another thing for another time. I'm much more partial to a Vue because it teaches more correct design principles. React is basically trying to emulate PHP. React was created to get PHP developers using something different. Yeah, so Symfony is kind of like Rails. I used Symfony about 10 years ago. I used it on a project back when I inherited some code that was in PHP. And I remember being kind of like Rails. I had to use an Oracle adapter. Yeah, Vue. I think Vue is good because it's good design patterns. Also, the bot is reminding me to remind you that if you like this content, consider giving a like, sub, follow, etc., etc. And there's also a link there to the Discord if you'd like to join in on the Discord. Okay, now let me get back to this. So code is valid. And I actually want to be more explicit about this, I think. Okay, E-code redeemed. So if it wasn't successful, where else could we possibly have E-code redeemed? Okay, I think right here. Oh, this is redeemed. So we'd only actually want to have this throw if the code was already redeemed, if the code is valid. All right. And then exchange is the other one I'm a little bit worried about. So where do we have assert is fresh? Interesting. Actually, I'm going to move this down. So we're going to assert is fresh here. And what should happen if we want to exchange this and it has been redeemed? Because here, I'm going to put true. The code isn't valid, but it's not invalid because we don't need it. I think that might be the right thing to do here. Yeah, Mountain Dew is the nectar of intelligence. My wife was in the room as I said that. Increases your brain workability. Oh gosh. Once you use real programming languages, I'm an equal opportunity offender. Okay? This is why I don't have a lot of followers. Because I'll roast my own followers. Okay? If you start using well-engineered programming languages and you still have a soft spot for PHP, something is wrong with your brain, son. Okay. Online coding mentors. Online coding mentors taught you to use PHP? Yes, they were absolutely wrong. Oh, okay. Yeah, programming fuel. That's what Mountain Dew is. It doesn't matter. Symfony doesn't make PHP better. If you have something that's a terrible base and you add good things on it, it's like saying, I built my house on top of sand, but I used really nice teak mahogany. Isn't it a nice house? No, it's a terrible house. No one should buy that house. It's built on sand. You don't build a house on sand. Period. The end. There's no other arguments. Doesn't matter. Every other quality of the house can be perfect. If you built the house on sand and doesn't have any foundation, it's a disaster. That's just the end. That's what it is. So, no. Symfony may have good design patterns in it, but that doesn't mean that, oh, yeah, now PHP is cool. No. So, yeah. Okay, so I have to think a little bit about this. Anytime you have to add a comment to code, you have to think about, are you doing your code right? I think I should just repeat. I think what I should do, what would be better than this, is just repeating. Hold on, assert is fresh. So if none of the other errors happen, let's see, where's redeemed? The one thing that I don't like about duplicating the code, though, let's see. Let's change it from success to is redeemable. And I'll just change this to false instead of null. We don't need that question mark there. Okay. I'm going to change this from success to is redeemable because that's really what we're trying. Yeah, I feel a lot better about that. Oh, and I need to go change my errors. I'm going to go do this real quick. Let me not forget because this is really important. Invalid. So we have detail. And we also have status. And this is going to be number. I'm going to put status here. And then status is actually going to be 400 is going to be the default. Or actually, you know what? We could probably do the same thing as we're doing elsewhere. We could do Boolean. And we could say is redeemable. And we can set that is redeemable to false because really I want the same thing here. I want to say let status equals 400 or I guess 403. And then if is redeemable, then we can set the status to 400. And that actually should work. I'll check comments in just a second here. I'm going to finish out my thought process first. So that looks right. Okay, so now I can go back here, and I'm pretty sure the only place I have this invalid is where I have is redeemable. So I can get rid of this status entirely because I don't actually need that. And then all of these statuses I'll just replace with is redeemable. All right. And then let's see. And then I can go back to the place where I just was. And maybe redeemable, maybe that ought to be instead is exchangeable or something. is redeemable. Is redeemable. And then it's not success, but it is redeemable. Okay, and then we can go back here and we can say, let's call this is redeemable as well. Okay. And you'll notice here, this is just a good pattern to follow. And this is talked about in multiple of the talks that are in the Creeds of Craftsmanship. Matt Ryer points it out very explicitly. You don't want to nest things when you don't have to. A lot of times people like to nest things. They just like to say, oh, let me throw a bunch of code inside of an if. But you should almost never throw... If statements should almost always be exclusively one line long. You should almost never use if else. And if you do use if else, your else statement should be fewer conditions than your if statement. Almost always, in almost 100% of cases, we're talking 99.9. You know, maybe between 1 out of 1,000 and 1 out of 10,000 cases, your else statement should be longer than your if. And you could just take that to 100% because you could swap the condition of your if, although sometimes that doesn't quite make sense. But your if statement should be between, maybe max, if you're really overdoing it, maybe 3 lines long, which means that your else statement should never be 3 lines long. You keep your logic clean. Don't just throw stuff inside of an if because you can. If you've reached the end of a condition, return. Don't throw 50 lines of code inside of a condition. It is easier to read from top to bottom than it is to read from left to right. So you don't want to force people that read the code to have to read from left to right to figure out what's going on. You want to be able to just follow an even flow. Okay, if it's redeemable, it ends here. Cool, done. And then do. You don't want to have, okay, well, here's an else 50 lines down. Wait, what is this else for? Let me go all the way 50 lines back up. Okay, it's if it's not this, because if it's this, it does the 50 lines. And if it's not this, it just does a return. Or it just does a throw error. Anytime you're checking error, check the error, throw it. You're done. Okay, now let me catch up on comments down here. I wanted to circle back really quick to your comment regarding government workforce from a few days ago. I agree. But that's the old guard of government, looking forward to retirement. There are those of us who care about modern day tech and 21st century practices. Oh, I believe that those people exist. I just don't know that I believe... The structure of government is that there is no accountability. The problem with government is that it operates on the principle of socialism. And that's why our founding fathers wanted our government to be small. There is so much that I'm learning about our Constitution and whatnot, things that they didn't teach you in school because school's run by the government and the government wants more government. So, in capitalism, in a true capitalist society, and I think that there's abuses of capitalism. For example, big tech is not capitalism. Capitalism is when there's a free market. Anytime you create monopolies or you start creating artificial restrictions on the market in order to make the market do one thing or another, you're looking at socialism. You're not looking at capitalism, right? So the government wants socialism because that's the only way the government can grow and get more power. And capitalism demands accountability. You have to have something that works, that people want, that increases value. It's not by force, it's by free will. That's the free market. Literally free market. And I just don't think that, yes, there can be people in the government that want all sorts of things, and many of those things can be good. But government as an entity, it has to release itself from accountability because that's the only way that it can grow. Because if it has to be accountable, then it can also shrink. Oh gosh, no, don't use a MySQL. No. So, webinstall.dev/Postgres. So there's a lot of reasons. It's not that MySQL is terrible. It's just not as good. And if you've got two options and one is great and the other one's okay, why would you ever use the one that's okay? So Postgres is simpler in just about every single way. The only thing about Postgres that I think is a little less simple than MySQL is that MySQL has show tables and describe. And for Postgres, describe is \d and show tables, I think, is \dt or something like that. Or maybe I've got them inverted. It's actually easy to remember. It's easier to remember the whole word than it is to remember the letter. That's the one advantage that I think that MySQL has over Postgres. But if you look in the community, there's just way better tooling for Postgres. So any of the libraries that try to be everything to everyone, they kind of suck, right? Because you're not actually getting something that works towards what the database needs to be. So I'll give you this example in Node. We have Slonik. And Slonik is geared specifically towards Postgres. And so it works really well because it works for a specific database rather than trying to work for any database. And then in Go, you have things like SQL C. And SQL C works really well because it's geared towards specifically Postgres. And so it can work really well specifically for Postgres. And you'll find that as you look through different tooling, there's always better tooling for Postgres than there is for MySQL because nobody who is serious about databases uses MySQL. No one, I mean, I could be wrong about this, but I don't think I've ever met a person that says, I looked at the databases that we have available and I chose MySQL because it's a better database. I've never heard that. I've heard people say, well, we wanted it to also be compatible with MySQL because we have customers that use MySQL. And I think this is flawed reasoning because if you just ship your product in a box, then you just provide the database as well. You just say, okay, and our product also sets up, you can turn the auto setup Postgres on or off. But people don't need to go fidget in. When you're shipping a product, they typically don't need to go fidget with your tables in your database and say, oh yeah, we need to do cross-join queries with your widget and our widget. That's typically not how it works. Okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, there's still groups in the government that operate like it's year 2000. It's not a book from Matt. So creedsofcraftsmanship.com. This link will pop up in the channel automatically every so often, but I just put it up now. So these are talks. These are talks and presentations and such on software engineering. So that's Matt Ryer, and it's MAT. And the specific talk is things I never use in Go. A lot of those talks are about Go, but they're not really about Go. They're about software engineering, and they're using Go as the language that they're speaking around because Go is the best language for software engineering because it is 100%. It is kind of the spiritual successor to Python. In terms of Python was built by somebody who really understood software engineering, and there's the whole Zen of Python that speaks to it, which the Zen of Python is listed on there as well. Okay, back to the government. Government would not survive in the real world because we are our own VCs. Well, it's the taxpayers are the VCs, but there's no accountability. You get to enforce your will upon the taxpayers without being accountable to them as to the direction of the product or whether the product is succeeding or failing. We as citizens, and this is the whole reason we had the revolution, right? Taxation without representation. We as citizens no longer have representation in the government, or at least not in a effectual sense, right? The government should be, if we got to pay taxes, we should be paying the most taxes to our city, and then we should be paying fewer taxes to our state, and then we should be paying the least taxes of all, probably no taxes, to the federal government, right? Because all of the federal government, the way that it was designed is that people were supposed to have jobs, right? And Congress was supposed to meet at least once a year, right? And so we've strayed a far, far distance from everything that the founding fathers were trying to prevent of having this, monarch parliament style government that we've devolved back into. You can run Postgres locally. Of course you can. Oh yeah, webinstall.dev. So I made this with a buddy of mine, but you will find that every tool that you need as a programmer is on here, or almost every tool. So you can, if there's something that's missing, let us know. There are a bunch of tools that aren't listed on the homepage just because they're things I haven't personally reviewed to know that, yeah, they're super useful. But if somebody makes a contribution, I'll add it, and then they can list it on their README of, we use Webby as our official installer. I try to get everything on the homepage, but there's some things that just I'm not convinced to showcase them yet. But yeah, you'll find lots of good tools here. You are welcome. Okay, and now let me get back to this is redeemable. So we have the increment on failure is redeemable. And then I need to go back to assert is fresh back up to the exchange. Okay, so assert is fresh. And this one is not really is redeemable. I guess really all that we need to know here. Yeah, you can't cancel it if it's already been canceled, if it's expired, if it's deleted. You can't cancel it if it's redeemed. So I would say this one is fine. Well, I don't know. It doesn't matter which one we use here. Actually, okay, I need to rethink this a little bit, just a little bit. Okay. I almost think I switch this around the other way, maybe. All right, how many places do we call this? We call this in one place here. So this is check. Okay. So I think this is redeemed is in the wrong place. All right, so this is the crux of my problem. Is we need to know whether or not to check redeemability. Because this check is a little bit funny. Because it means different things in different contexts. Which makes me wonder if perhaps it does belong in a different place. So I'm going to walk through this one more time. Assert is fresh. Let me go back to the top here. So here, is redeemable is false. So we can't really have an is redeemed, but we could. If it's already been redeemed, we don't want the check. Do we want the check to succeed? So if code yeah, it's almost that it's a special check that is redeemed. Because here, I think what I need to do is change the status of the redeemed. Well, dang it. Because basically, it's an error. If it's already been redeemed, we can't exchange it, and we shouldn't really check it anymore, I think. Or maybe we could just say, let's see. We can still check it. We can still check it. That's actually fine. We can't exchange it anymore. If it's been redeemed, we can't exchange it, but we can still check it. So let me go back from the top. Okay, we can still check after redemption. Okay. And then here, if everything else passes, then it can be exchanged. Let's see, exchanged at. Is redeemed checking exchanged at? Redeemed. Oops. Okay, if it's already been exchanged. Okay, so that's something else that we're checking for. Okay, I need to rethink this because there's two cases. There's one where, because this can happen on two devices, right? So you can have started the process in your browser window, and then you can continue the process on your phone. So you can initiate the process in a browser, you can go on your phone and you can click the link. And so redeemed actually has two cases. One is that it's if you're trying to redeem it for the first time, it's going to be on your phone. Your phone is going to do the verification. The verification, it's going to be verified at. And then the second one is going to be now the browser that's just been standing open. It can check again and it can say, okay, the process is complete. I'm moving on. By the way, bot wants me to remind you, which bot is a proxy for me because I told the bot to tell us this. But like if you like, because if you like what you like, you get more of what you liked. And consider a like, sub, and follow if you want to. If you want to. Not trying to tell you how to live your life, unless we're talking about code, in which case I'm definitely trying to tell you how to live your life. So if you want me to tell you how to live your life, consider a follow and a sub. Okay. Code exchanged at. All right, so let's go back to redeem. Verified at. So really, if this is already verified at, where are we checking verified at? Do we check down here? We check an exchange, if not verified at. And then we check redeemed. Interesting. Oh, what's up? Carslark? Oh, I need to make the screen bigger. I can't see. I can't read that. Oh, and it's already disappeared. But hello. Welcome to the channel. I'm glad that you've decided that you'd like me to tell you how to live your life. I will be much obliged to do so. Okay. Oh. All these little nuanced details. This is what code's all about, isn't it? Okay. So I think I should do this. Redeem should be the first check. No, redeem should not be the first check. Dang it. Because we always have to check this first. Oh, it's just this little bit of order of operations where there's nuanced details of which check should run first under which circumstances. It's driving me insane. All right, we're gonna work through this. It's gonna be annoying. It's gonna be boring, but I'm gonna work through it. And then it'll be all the better in the end. I mean, part of this is maybe saying, maybe I've done something a little too complicated here, you know? Hmm. Okay, so we got the assert again there. I think if I run through this from top to bottom one more time, I think I'll get it. Okay. Maybe I should do this. No double redeem. No double exchange. And past validation. Or rather, failed validation. Let me just see how this plays out. So we'll do no double redeem. Because these are kind of the three conditions. No double exchange. And then a failed validation. And we're going to assume that it's in the strictest sense first. And I probably want this to be some sort of options. We'll just go with it like this for now, just to try it out. All right, so I'm going to go with failed validation. I actually should swap all of these on the inside because I'm checking the failure case rather than checking the success case. Okay. So if no double redeem, and we can say if no double exchange, this would be verified at, this would be exchanged at. I think that might cover all the bases there. Let me get over here, object. And technically, JSDoc doesn't require to use the JavaScript types, such as number with a capital N, but it's the right thing to do. So we're going to do it. Okay. Okay, so what is this not like? Oh, you know what? How about like that? Yeah, there we go. That works. There we go. Okay, so let's go back to our assert is fresh again. Where else we've declared it. And this is going to be, so we're just doing a check. And so the no double redeem is false. No double exchange is false. So we can check the status of it. Or maybe we can't. And then failed verification is false. I think this is correct. Assert is fresh. Okay, so no double redeem is false. No double exchange is true. Failed verification is false. All right, there we go. This is coming together. I think I finally got it. Ah, what did I do? I hit Control N when I meant to hit Shift N. That's what happened. Okay, and then here, failed verification. And this one is, oh, increment on failure. Ah, no, we need to pass through what this one is. Because we actually don't know what this one will be. I see. So ops.failed verification is going to be equal to not is redeemable. And the rest of these should just be ops that get passed through. I'm just going to call this assert ops. And we'll call it here too, assert ops. And then up here we can have assert ops. And then here we can have assert ops. And I should probably signify what these are again. Yeah, so what I need is now I need to define this type that's assert ops. So let's do that here. So at type def, right? This is going to be assert ops. And then, let me see, type def challenge property. Yeah, so we're just going to do it like this. So it's going to be these three things here. And then this is going to be assert ops instead of object. And then we'll put these three things here, and then we'll change param to property. Param property. There we go. We get rid of that, and then we get rid of this prefix on these. So let's get rid of ops. Turn it to nothing. There we go. All right, this is it. Now we have our assert ops. And now I can go back to where I was defining assert ops, and I can just put that there. And then we can probably pass this through somewhere else as well. So every assert is fresh thingy should have its assert ops. Let's go make sure that this one has, it's got is redeemable. Nope. Instead it has assert ops. Okay. And that means the check has assert ops because increment on failure has assert ops. But then we're all good. Right? Right. Okay. Okay. I've actually decided I don't like things being done this way anymore. There's issues where this syntax is not. I think there's a few places where you must use this syntax because you can't use the other syntax. But in most cases, this syntax is suboptimal. So it's better to do add param object and then do at param. So we could call this ops.example, and then you do make this string ops.if, and then same thing here, string ops.secret, and then same thing ops.authn param. And so this style is preferable to this style. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and change that. I don't remember what it was, but I think there was a case where the other style is required and the style won't work. Something with the TypeScript linter. Oh, it's failed verification, not failed validation. Failed. Oh, come on now. Failed validation, failed verification. Same thing. Do those mean something different? Verification versus validation, do they actually have different meanings? Let's go define that real quick. I'm curious. Is there a nuance difference? define verification, define validation. Yes. Okay. Accuracy of state. I think that's correct. Process validating, especially determined degree of validity. This is so dumb, these circular definitions. You can't use the word in its definition. All right, there. Okay, so valid is acceptable versus verified is accurate. Interesting. Acceptable versus accurate. So in that case, failed validation would be more accurate of a term. Let's change it. Why not? Failed verification. Failed validation. Sure. Because it did not fail to be accurate, but it did fail to be correct. Alrighty. So I think after much travail, I finally found the correct method of handling all of these conditions in the right order. That took way too long. I've got 10 minutes left to close the lid on this. So I think I'll have to go top to bottom one more time. I think, for example, yeah, there's still a couple places where I call check that I need to decide what this means. Interesting. I wonder, am I using .check elsewhere in the code? No, I'm not. Good. All right. So in this case, I need to pass through some options. All right, what options am I passing through here? I'm passing through, this is a check, so we don't allow double redeem or double exchange. And in this case, we can say failed validation is false. Okay. So basically here we could just leave these empty because they're true by default. I left all of them true by default to be as strict as possible by default. So yeah. This should not be complaining at me. This should be happy with me. I think what I need to do is change the type on this to be Boolean optional. Now is it less mad? Yeah, it's hard to tell the difference between some of these words like validate and verify, but I think you have given a good example. You can validate the email that it is acceptable and then verify that it is correct. Okay. So I do need at some point to figure out how how to get more, how to expand this bottom part here that gives me this error message. Because I don't know how to do that. There's got to be a way to do it. I'm going to search real quick. Vim expand. I forget the name of that buffer. It's got a particular name. But I'm going to say linter message. Let me try this. C open. Quick fix list. Crap. I don't know how to get back. That's not it. Dang it. That didn't work. Let's see. How do I switch panes? Control W. Control W, that's it. All right, so how do I expand the quick fix? That's what it's called. Vim expand quick fix. Eh, I don't see it. Okay, I don't know why this is complaining. Because these are the same two from here, and that's all that's necessary, right? JavaScript Jabber is in full force, Mario. So we are actually starting JavaScript Jabber in 5 minutes. Yeah. Also, my bot reminds me to remind you, if you like this content, consider giving a like, follow, or sub. So Mario, JavaScriptJabber.com. Are you not seeing what you want to see on JavaScriptJabber.com? Now, I don't think we're going to broadcast the show live because we often don't do that. Okay, maybe what I wanted was not the, I think I know what it was. So question mark means it can be null. Brackets means that it can be not there. Yeah, there we go. That fixes it. That fixes it. Okay, so no double redeem, but we're not going to check whether or not it's been exchanged, although it should not be possible for it to be exchanged either. Okay, I think this is finally correct. It will give a hard failure if you should give a code and you don't give a code or the code is wrong. But it will give a softer failure, and this is judged by status code, 403 forbidden versus 400 bad request. It'll give the softer of the two if the code is not given and something else is wrong. Well, basically, if the code must be given and it is not given correctly, any error is going to be forbidden, no matter what error type it is. But if the code is given correctly, but something is wrong, then it will give the softer 400. There we go. That's the way of it. Okay, and this will allow us to distinguish between the error types and make sure that we give back the appropriate error. So JS has always needed semicolons. So you should, not using semicolons in JavaScript is stupid. And the only reason that you wouldn't use them is if you are either ignorant or arrogant. You have to be one of the two. The ignorance would be that you think that they're not necessary. And the arrogance would be that you know that they're necessary, but you also know exactly how the semicolon parsing rules work in JavaScript. And so you believe that your brain is smart and capable enough that you can remember when there's an exception and when there's not and always get it correct. So yes, you always need semicolons in JavaScript. And the only reason that you would not have semicolons in JavaScript is either you are ignorant or arrogant. Ignorance can be forgiven, arrogance at your own peril. Yes. Yes. If you just start using prettier, and then you will find out where there are errors in your code. If you are not using a linter, again, that is due to either forgivable ignorance or completely unforgivable arrogance. You should absolutely be using a linter on your code. Now, there are some linters that will know when semicolons can be handled, because basically the semicolons will get inserted automatically, but it doesn't mean that it'll do what you want it to do. And so there are some linters where if the presence of a semicolon doesn't change the behavior, because essentially it goes like this. If the JavaScript parser encounters an error, then it will put a semicolon, it'll back up, insert a semicolon, and continue. And if it continues and there's no longer an error, then it continues parsing in that way. So that's the rule of the JavaScript parser. And so some extremely arrogant fools say, oh, well, you don't need semicolons in JavaScript because the parser will insert the semicolon on an error. And the reason I call them arrogant fools is because the parsing rules are tricky and you have to memorize what those rules are. And some people say, oh, well, there's only 5 exceptions. So if you just memorize all 5 exceptions and you always execute them accurately, then this is not a problem. To which I say, it's also not a problem to insert semicolons. Why would you put extra mental burden on yourself when you don't have to? But basically, whenever there's a new line, that acts as a semicolon in most but not all cases. So it's not worth learning the rules, because this isn't a problem that you as a human need to have as a burden. This is a problem that a machine can handle for you. And so if you have a problem that a machine can give you, it can give you the correct inputs and outputs, then let the machine do its job. And so if you just use a linter and prettier, so I use JSHint and prettier, but I am considering switching to ESLint. I just haven't done it yet. Oh, anyway, JavaScript Jabber is starting, so I actually have to get off the stream and go get on JavaScript Jabber. So, yeah, y'all have a good one. I will be back after JavaScript Jabber. I will be continuing with the same silly problem, but I think we've solved it now. I just need to confirm it, and then I need to continue on with the rest of the routing, because this was really all about the handling of particular error cases and whether it's a soft failure or a hard failure based on whether or not the full code is given there or not. Anyway, I have to go. It's been fun, and always remember.
But there's no sense crying over every mistake. You just keep on trying till you run out of cake.
Adios.